Here we are again, everybody. Welcome back to the Square to Circle Music Channel. It's your old pal Mage. It's about that time. I think you know what time I'm talking about. The most wonderful time of the year. Let's talk about the holiday season. Um, this is a tricky time for a lot of people, especially people who are music lovers, appreciators, all types, aficionados. Um, I've talked to a lot of people who love the holiday season, whatever holiday you may celebrate, or maybe you don't celebrate any of the holidays. That's totally cool. A lot of people here in the Americas, the United States especially, like to celebrate Christmas time, and there's lots of other cultural and religious holidays, lots of other celebrations, secular celebrations, pagan celebrations, what have you. I just wanted to go over some of my favorite selections of the holiday season that will kind of not encompass all of those ideologies and what have yous, but some of my favorites that of the season that don't necessarily adhere to any specific religion or any specific culture per se. A lot of traditional folk songs and a lot of traditional religious hymns and things like that. Um, Everybody gets good feelings from that around this time of year. And so I wanted to go over some of my favorite selections for a lot of you people who grow weary of the same every day, every year garbage that's on the radio. Uh, Succumbing to the likes of the Grinch and Chrissy the Christmas Mouse and a hippopotamus for Christmas and just all that just kitschy garbage that floods the radio waves this time of year. So I wanted to give you all just a quick top 10 of some of my favorite holiday albums that are a little bit off the beaten path, stuff that you probably won't hear on the radio. Some you will, but some of them are kind of deep cuts. And I think a lot of you folks who are appreciators and lovers of things on a little bit more of the, like I said, kind of the folk end of things, as far as like not what you would think of as like American folk from like the 50s, 60s, 70s, but like traditional folk music from around the world and how they celebrate this time of year. And so you'll see a lot of that type of stuff and just kind of some off the beaten path stuff for you folks who need something a little bit different than, like I said, you know, Tony Bennett Christmas album and whatever the Andy Williams. I love Andy Williams. I think Andy Williams is the most wonderful time. That's probably my favorite Christmas song of all. But we all get a little bit tired of Bing Crosby right around this time of year, don't we? So sorry about the long-winded introduction, like I always do, but I'll just jump right into it. Here's my top 10 favorite holiday albums. So I'll just get right into it. This one being one that is kind of more, like I said, not entirely of a secular, kind of frame of mind. But a lot of these are traditional songs that come from Old World Europe, from the medieval part of history. So they're not really latched onto modern day Christianity per se. Yeah, they come from that that kind of part of the world and that type of era where it was like a lot of persecution and a lot of like horrible shit that was going on surrounding religion and surrounding whatever. But let's just kind of see through all that and let's think about the music. So this is called A Medieval Christmas by the Boston Camerata. I don't know what that means, the Camerata. I guess I'll have to research that. But this is a selection of really super rare, weird shit that I guarantee most people have never ever heard of. There's nothing on this album you're going to recognize. Stuff that I'm saying far predates any of like the Renaissance period or the I guess this would be kind of like around Renaissance period in Europe, but even a little bit before. So we're talking, you're not going to recognize anything from like, 16th, 17th, 18th century European composers. This is all real super old world shit, primarily based around, like I said, kind of Central and Western Europe. So you're going to be hearing a lot of the kind of like, sounds that you were hearing out of medieval Britain, Saxony, German, Germanic cultures and stuff like that. A lot of Eastern European instruments and sounds and flavors. Really fucking cool. Lots of really cool instruments that you've probably never heard before, and it still has that wonderful kind of air of, holiday season stuff. It makes you feel the holiday season, which is really great. So yeah, everybody check this out on the very prolific, very famous Nonesuch label, so that it's legitimate and awesome. The Nonesuch label, it's been around forever. And like I said, just tons of, there's some choral stuff, but not a ton of choral stuff from what I remember. Mostly just, like I said, a lot of real interesting old world strings and flutes and lutes and all kinds of really interesting shit. As well as some really great vocalizations too. So, of course, all the vocalizations are going to be in, Latin or old world Germanic languages. So most aren't going to understand anything, and it's just going to be, it's a real good time. It's a real good time. So, everyone, check out A Medieval Christmas by the Boston Camerata. So yeah, on the Nonesuch label, really great stuff. Check it. So that's the first one. Next on the list, everyone's going to chuckle because this is definitely not one that is unique fare whatsoever. This is definitely all over the radio all the time, every holiday season. But it just, it's one of my favorites because it's just one of the more unique holiday albums, and everyone will recognize it. It's just wonderful and prolific, and just gives everyone a little bit of what they need during the holiday season. It just kind of, everyone gets taken back to their childhood when they hear this. Talking about, of course, the Charlie Brown Christmas album, the incredibly famous Vince Guaraldi on piano. Of course, Vince Guaraldi, very famous for his jazz, piano, and an exceptional player and composer and writer all throughout. Oh boy, I'm not even sure of his really time frame in history, but I'm sure he, had been playing probably from the I want to say 40s, 50s, 60s, all the way through. I'm not sure when his death was, but pretty amazing jazz pianist all throughout that great period in history when jazz was really morphing into something that was really, a force to be reckoned with. We're not talking big band era and stuff like that. We're talking like, smoky, cool jazz of like the 50s and 60s. And he was kind of just a real, heavyweight of that shit. And then, of course, his, big claim to fame, why everyone remembers him, is because of this. This timeless, wonderful little children's classic. But, it's, I don't know. It goes so far beyond that because the music is timeless. It's just really great, soft jazz, really atmospheric, really cool jazz, and we all love it, and I love the shit out of it. So it just had to be on the list because this is something that just will never ever go away. It will always be in my heart. This was something that was handed down to me from my mother. It's got my mother's handwriting on it and a bunch of scribbles all over it from probably me or one of my sisters when we were very, very young and just decided to turn this into a coloring book. So always been a part of my life, and it always will be. So everyone's got to have a little piece of the Vince Guaraldi trio around the Christmas tree, around the Christmas time. And so even folks that, like I said, more of the kind of like non-religious, kind of secular end of the stick is kind of where I fall, honestly, to tell you the truth. But people that do celebrate the religious aspect of the holidays, whatever religion that may be, it's for everybody. You know what I mean? Jazz is for everybody. So, yeah, hooray for Charlie Brown. That had to be on the list. So, getting closer to the season, for sharing and loving, and this one this one really cuts deep into my heart. It really plucks my heartstrings a lot. This was one of my mother's favorites. This was one that I discovered through her, because she was a big fan of new age ambient kind of that type of music, and all throughout the 80s, in the early 80s when I was growing up, this was the type of stuff that was always on in the house, and especially at Christmas time. It was just really, atmospheric and lovely to just kind of like be, making merry around the house, in the Christmas season. And this was one that was just always on. It's a really fantastic label that puts out tons of awesome new age music called Narada, and they do all types of stuff, all types of music throughout all different seasons, but very well known obviously for their Christmas time music. And so this is the Narada Christmas Collection album. I really recommend this to all of you folks who love ambient, not just piano music, but there's, like I said, there's lots of flavors in here. It gets really really woo woo and really floofy and fluffy, with synthesizer, new age type, kind of incense burning type stuff. But then, the next cut on here will be like straight up, Eastern European, straight up folk, classic from their holiday season. Very worldly, very eclectic, very very, very cool album. Everyone will really like this. So put some effort into trying to find this one. Honestly, you probably won't have to look too hard. I see this in bargain bins everywhere for eternity. So yeah, you'll definitely find this somewhere, and you'll see it on CD a lot, and you'll get it for $1. If you ever find a copy of this in a bargain bin, I highly recommend getting it. Your holiday season will be much brighter. So everyone get the Narada Christmas Collection. And like I said, it's very, very eclectic. Lots of really cool sounds and instruments, and little bits and pieces from all over the world. And from what I recall, this entire album is all instrumental. So if you're especially someone who, around the holiday season gets a little bit weary and tired of just kind of like the cheesy, holiday lyrics and this and that, if you really just need a breath, of fresh air. For me, it's a huge breath of fresh air. A lot of what I spin is instrumental music. And so if you're a fan of the instrumental music and you like to just kind of like check out of the instrument or the lyrical stuff every now and again, this is definitely for you. Yeah, it's a real great one. So everyone check that out, Narada. And of course, the Narada label puts out, like I said, tons of great music for all seasons. So yeah, check that label out, really good. Gonna go back into the realm of kind of the popular here, kind of like in the same vein as the Peanuts gang, but not so deep into the childish kind of nerdery that this guy also involved himself in, especially around the Christmas time. He was made famous for being an incredible songwriter and singer and folk hero here in America, but also made, I guess, hyper famous for singing with Muppets to be exact. And he did a holiday album with them, which I'm not going to highlight here because I think it's stupid, but this album by John Denver, his Rocky Mountain Christmas album, is truly is a masterpiece. Everyone knows, if you've watched any of my videos, know that I have a real soft spot in my heart for John Denver, and I think a lot of people probably do and aren't willing to admit it. But the world has a soft spot in their heart for John Denver. I mean, come on, the guy was a pretty special music maker. And nothing reflects what was in his head and heart so much better as, of course, the Rocky Mountain High album, but this one being kind of the holiday reflection of that is Rocky Mountain Christmas album. So not just a lot of kind of your standards as far as Christmas songs go. You will hear of course, a couple of standards, but it's not really the hokey stuff. He pours his heart and soul into this and is very serious about it, and does a lot of really wonderful renditions of some popular Christmas songs that you've heard a million times, and then you'll hear some stuff on this album that you will have never heard before, and it's really charming, and it's very just kind of like, by the campfire, sort of chestnuts roasting type of feel you're going to get from this album. You really truly feel like you're, high in the Rocky Mountains in a log cabin, just was sitting there with John Denver, smoking a bowl, enjoying the Christmas season with the guy. And he does get lighthearted and fun with it. There's a great song on here, just kind of, goes back, decades and decades for my family. We loved that song, the Please Daddy Don't Get Drunk This Christmas. It was a favorite around our house growing up, not because my father was like an alcoholic or anything, but it was just kind of a crack up. It's a really charming, funny song. Everyone's got someone in their family that can't control themselves, especially when it comes to the sauce. So it's just a fun and charming song that I think he wrote that song. Please Daddy Don't Get Drunk This Christmas. I'm not sure if he wrote that or not. I'll have to look that up. But yeah, really charming, really wonderful album, beautiful album art. Christmas and John Denver kind of, they really go hand in hand quite well. So anyone that's on the fence about this one, just give it a shot. It's the holiday season. Come on, give it a try. So I hope everyone's having a really wonderful time in life right now. I hope everyone's enjoying their holiday season if they're into that type of thing. I know I am. I love the holiday season, so I hope everybody has had a chance to really sit and reflect about how thankful they are in life and how thankful we are to be here in this existence and this reality. And I hope everyone's reality ain't so tough. I hope everyone's at least getting a little bit of reprieve in this difficult time and this difficult existence, this mortal coil that we're all having to partake in and fucking jump through the fiery hoops that we all do. So this is my favorite season to just kind of reflect and be thankful that we at least have our health and we at least have beautiful music to listen to. So that's what this stuff means to me. So some of this music that we reflect and sit around and listen to around the holiday season, it all has a very kind of a mystical, power to it, because these were things they began as hymns, they began as spiritual messages to, whoever and whatever these people were worshiping and whatever they believed in. And all of these things from around the world, they all coalesce and they all come together, and you can sense why some of this music was written and what it truly means. A lot of it's very powerful music. Of course, some of it's a little bit more lighthearted and whimsical, obviously. But some of these, selections it's some of the most beautiful music on the planet, because it was written, like I said, in a period of time or in a headspace where it was really meant to be, an exultant type of thing. This was music for the gods in a sense. So some Christmas music to me is just some of the greatest music ever written by humans. So I'm just going to keep moving along here. I'm doing my list here. This one's a twofer. Sometimes I do a twofer just because this group has many holiday albums, but these are two of the best, and it's kind of their original ones. So I'll just bring them out at the same time. But you folks have heard me talk about that fantastic group called Manheim Steamroller. I honestly don't even know what the name is or means. Created by a group of individuals in the 70s, just kind of a hodgepodge, mishmash of Celtic music mixed with modern day synthesizer pop music. I would assume that these guys are probably from like like Ireland or Australia or something like that. You can tell because their sense, um, their flair for the pop music is just a little bit different than American pop was, like in the 70s and 80s. But anyway, I digress. Wherever these guys are from, spearheaded by a man named Chip Davis, he kind of took over the namesake of the Manheim Steamroller, so now it's called Chip Davis's Manheim Steamroller. And they're still playing. You can go see them perform live. Everyone's familiar with their shits on the radio. It's really, some of it can be really just kind of like supercharged, bombastic, lots of, big symphonic moments, and then some like super nerdy, like like techno synth driven beats, and just like really super nerdy shit. It's really fantastic. So anyone that likes stuff that's a little off the beaten path and a little more kind of quirky and fun, you're gonna love this shit. They, like I said, they made numerous albums. This one's their best. It's their first one they ever made. Um, Lots of great selections. Like I said, stuff that is famous tunes, some a little bit more obscure tunes, and they do their really interesting twists on them. This one I think was probably their second holiday album that they made. Both of these, I believe, probably in the mid to late '80s that they put these out. Um, but this one is kind of a continuation of the first idea, just doing some more classics. And I feel like this one is probably more, a little bit more kind of classic old world Celtic style influence, a little bit less of kind of like the mainstream pop, techno beat kind of stuff that they were doing on their first album. This one just kind of goes into a little bit more of the, old world madrigal type, kind of feel to it. Both are worth having. The thing about all of this music that I'm talking about today, the greatest thing about this stuff is, like I said time and time again, you can find these fucking records in dollar bins, and they're generally going to be almost untouched, like pristine condition. So yeah, you can find these all year round everywhere. And in the middle of June, if you find one in a bargain bin, grab it, throw it on the shelf for later on in the year. Especially, yeah, these ones, the Manheim Steamrollers, dude. My kids love this stuff. This is their favorite Christmas music. Kids just adore this stuff. So, like I said, it's kind of quirky, super fun. Give it a shot. It's great. Off the beaten path. Okay, moving on down the line. Here's one that is a little bit more of kind of the classical, quintessential stuff that you may hear on the radio, but I mean, not so much these days because they're really just playing popular hits on the radio. But this is the type of music that really, like, this really rings of the Christmas season. This is the one that I'll reach for almost always on Christmas morning. This is the first one I want to hear on Christmas morning, because this is what reminds me of my childhood and reminds me of my my family's lineage and history, coming from obviously white dude, from British, German, Scottish, Irish. But this is the type of music that you hear in that portion of the world. This is the Festival of Carols, brass, blah, 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 huge, long title. A Festival of Carols in Brass by the Philadelphia Brass Ensemble. So you're talking all just, brass ensemble, small piece brass ensemble. I think there's, it's written, all parts are written for maybe a max of probably, 8 to 10 pieces. A couple of trumpets, couple of trombones, tuba. That's basically it. So very simplistic, but very beautiful. And you just, like I said, you get that really overwhelming, overpowering hair on the back of your neck, just constantly standing up, just that brass sound. These guys are just so amazing at their instruments. They're playing just like traditional British, English Christmas carols, just coming straight off that loud brass sound. It's just like, it really, it in my head, it just, all I think about is just like, 18th century, 19th century English. It's just awesome. It's great. I can't really say much more about it as far as in description, because it's just, I think you kind of catch my drift. it's it's really great. They just do all the classics, you know, and they play the shit out of it, and it's just solid brass. If you like brass instruments, it's the way to go. So yeah, everybody check this out. A Festival of Carols in Brass. Um, Really, really, really great album. So here's a fun, unique one that I had never ever seen before, and I actually really had never heard of this guy until, I don't know, maybe about 6 or 7 years ago. Um, when you get into like record collecting, you eventually come across these types of records where he's like, who's this guy? And you learn a little bit about just kind of like old players and who they are and where they come from and what they do. And I came across a bunch of albums by this guy one time. He's really, really, really fantastic. John Fahey. So if anybody hasn't heard John Fahey's Christmas album, it's called The New Possibility by John Fahey. It's really, really great. Very low key, all instrumental, of course. John Fahey being a classic, blues. I think Delta blues. I may be wrong about that, but I think that's primarily his style is Delta blues. Guitar, and just really super cool, low key. All the renditions and all the what's the word I'm looking for? Just how he rewrites all of the music in it and does, to his own take on it. Really fantastic, really clever. Never gets dull. You're not just hearing just kind of like a classic, guitar blues version of just a stupid carol where it's just kind of going through the motions. Like, he puts his own spin on it, makes it really interesting. It makes it really fun to listen to. Mostly all classics. You're going to hear all the typical classics from Christian religion, traditional stuff. But yeah, just a really super fun twist on it. The new possibility, and it just yeah, anyone that likes things off the beaten path, this is a really great one. So seek this out and check it out. All instrumental again, so you don't get a bunch of that constant annoying stupid Christmas lyrics. I guess that's probably my biggest beef, seemingly, about Christmas music and modern day Christmas music and whatever. It's just a lot of the lyrics are pretty hokey. And if you want to, kind of step away from the religious sense of things and the religious aspects that pervade life, if some people grow weary of that, or maybe you're just experimenting with new ideologies and new concepts in life, and you want to, check out a new secular path through your existence on this planet, you can find a lot of Christmas music that is just that. It's just music. It's just wonderful, wonderful music, and it doesn't have any lyrics to kind of, like I said, pervade and just kind of like break through the barrier and just remind you of maybe something that you don't have a fond memory of and a fond past with, so sorry, I don't mean to get negative. A lot of people have really wonderful feelings of their religion and love Christmas time for the the remembrance of Christian ideology. But not all do, and not all people are Christians. So I'll just leave that. I'm just gonna stop talking about that. But on that note, more things of, like I said, more of kind of like a secular area of the music here. This is another twofer, and this is the perfect group of selections for the person or people that really love holiday themed style music, but don't want to get into the religious aspect of it. So this is definitely for you. I've talked about this label to death. One of my favorite labels out there, Windham Hill, bringing out all types of fantastic music, primarily of, the new age ilk, ambient, piano, guitar, instrumental. They're a new age slash instrumental label from the late 70s and early 80s, all the way up through the late 80s. Um, they're just magnificent. And they made a couple of winter albums. So it's called A Winter's Solstice, and it's just a bunch of Windham Hill's most famous artists, names like George Winston, William Ackerman, Mark Isham, Liz Story, um, Tim Story. There's dozens and dozens. Michael Hedges. And they're all fantastic, and they all do these wonderful secular tunes, and nothing on here is of the old world Christian religious nature. It's all just mellow tunes that remind you of the winter season. Um, so it's a fantastic option for you folks who are on that path in life. And I just adore the shit out of it. It's just got some really fucking amazing music on it. Really amazing music. All types of instruments, all types of concepts and feels. And yeah, I'm not sure how many they made. I think there's this first one, and of course they made a second one. Just called it, Winter Solstice 2. I think that's probably all they made, is just these two. And they're both, early 80s releases, maybe mid 80s releases. But yeah, beautiful photography on the covers, like always. This album label is just super legit. Love the shit out of them. And so I highly recommend both these albums. Like I said, you can find them for a fucking dollar. They're awesome. And they're just wonderful spins to have around this season, and just really set the mood. Real mellow, beautiful music. So check out the Windham Hill Winter's Solstice collection. Coming down to the last couple here. Thanks for putting up with me tonight, guys. I really wanted to do this this video for you, because I sure do love the holiday season, and I sure do love holiday music, and wanted to share, like I said, some stuff that maybe you are unaware of, and stuff that'll really kind of like get you in the spirit, and you don't have to listen to the awful radio stations this time of year. There's plenty out there that'll fill the void for all you music lovers and appreciators, and people who have far better taste than most, and can't really put up with stuff that's on the radio. Here's a selection for you folks who appreciate and love stuff that is of the old world flair, that comes specifically from the Emerald Isle. So maybe you've heard of this group. They've done lots and lots of work, lots of albums, lots of playing. They're pretty famous. They're a wonderful group from Ireland called the Chieftains, and they have, I'm sure, many holiday Christmas albums, but this one is very memorable. This one's my favorite. It's just fantastic. It's called The Bells of Dublin. And so you're just going to get, hit after hit after hit of traditional Irish and Scottish and Welsh and English carols. And the Chieftains are known, their vocalizations are fantastic. They have at least probably 3 or 4 main singers. The whole group themselves, they all kind of sing. But primarily, I think they have maybe like 2 or 3 vocalists, and then they have a wealth of musicians. They all play, the traditional Irish drum. I'm not sure what it's called. The traditional Irish drum, and the Uilleann pipe and the penny whistle, and just all those classic Irish instruments that you'd hear of, a small group playing in a pub somewhere. And all of these songs that you hear on this album are that style. Like, you feel like you're sitting in a pub on Christmas Eve, surrounded by a bunch of drunken Irishmen, and the Boar's Head, and all these classic Irish and Scottish and English tunes that they kind of like wrote the that part of the world, being obviously strong in the Christian faith, but that, the United Kingdom, whatever you want to call it, Britain and Ireland and Scotland, whatever, they kind of wrote the book on classic Christmas carols. Um, so yeah, that's what you get from this, is just those classic, you know, 19th century uh, crazy Irish drinking songs, that are about Christmas. Um, Really fucking fantastic album. So research this online. I think I've looked. It was never pressed to wax, so you can't get this on vinyl. But CD copies of, you can get it anywhere for $3 on any of the places that you go to find your music. So definitely worth having. It's real fun. It's a great listen, and definitely gets you in that holiday spirit. If the grog doesn't get you there, this will. So, okay. Thanks again for joining me, everybody. Happy holidays to you. This is the last selection. It's a very special selection for me. Gone over stuff, and I've told you, this is stuff that I grew up listening to, and it's been a part of my life, my entire life, the majority of it. Been a part of my life, my whole life, and this one especially, it's got a really big place in my heart, and so wanted to bring it out and share it. It's a selection of music and a narration by a very famous children's book. I guess you could say it's a holiday book, but everyone's familiar with the story, The Snowman. What a wonderful, just beautiful children's story about a young boy who, gets the day off from school because it snowed heavy overnight, and he makes himself a snowman, and the snowman comes to life. So whatever, kind of your classic, whatever, Frosty the Snowman type story. But this one originates from England, where, some of the best stories and literature and music and everything comes from. But what a touching story. If anyone's unfamiliar with this, they did an animated short of it in the 80s, and it played on American TV a lot. We had a copy of it that we, taped off television when I was a child. We had the book, and it's a silent film, and it's 20 minutes long. It's an animation and like this beautiful, like sketch chalk style animation. So it's an art piece. You know what I mean? It's just gorgeous. And actually, I forgot, in the special, I don't know if it's the one that aired in America, but the one that aired in Britain on the BBC, the first part of it was narrated by David Bowie. And David Bowie introduced the story and said like it was one of his favorite books as a child or something like that. I don't know, just kind of a fun little interesting fact from the past. But yeah, David Bowie, like on the copy we had as a child, like David Bowie comes on and introduces this thing, and I was like, oh sweet, David Bowie. But then he doesn't play any part in the actual story or the music. But sorry, I digress. So my favorite thing about it, of course, being the art. It's a silent film, and it's all just the whole 20-minute animated short is done to one long piece of music. And that's what you have here on this LP. One side is the story, the actual read story, narrated by a man named Bernard Cribbins. I'm not sure who that is, but he does a wonderful job. And so on the A side, you can listen to the music and the story being told, being narrated. And then on the flip side, on the B side, it is just the music as it was written, straight 22-minute, piece of the music. And it's just beautiful. All instrumental, all done like, you can just, if you've seen it, in your childhood 100 times, like some of us did, you can just sit back and listen to the music and just picture the movie in your head, and you're watching it. It's the music is so well written and so vivid, and it goes along with the story so well. I don't even know who did the music. Okay, sorry, yeah, the music by a man named Howard Blake. Yeah, it's just it's touching. It's really touching. And for anyone that hasn't seen the movie or read the book, I'm not going to spoil it, but also one of the more humanistic and you know, it's touching, yet it's a very, you know, it's a harsh reality type of tale that only the British are so very good at. So yeah, it's just, this is just an absolute gem of all time. Uh, Wintertime Stories. The music is just fabulous. Like I said, it just goes along with the story so well as it's, you know, the tale's being told, and then there is a brief snippet about, you know, 10 to 15 minutes into the story where there's like an actual song written for it that has some vocalizations with a, you know, a young choir boy singing a beautiful song about walking on the air. And yeah, just so touching. So everyone, give it a try, give it a shot. I'm sure you'll love it. It definitely means just as much to me during the holiday season as anything else. This is probably one of the greatest little children's stories ever told, and the music is just fabulous. So that's going to conclude my holiday music selection. I hope everybody got a little bit of enjoyment out of this silly little video, and maybe you found yourself some great holiday music to research. Get online, go to your local record store. First, go plowing through their holiday music section. I'm sure they're going to cut you an amazing deal, because those things sit around and gather dust for years and years and years, and no one ever fucking buys the shit. So go to your local record store and ask them where their little bin of, you know, holiday records are, you know, and skip all the, you know, all the Frank Sinatra and Bing Crosby and, you know, whatever else, and look for some of these titles. These ones will definitely, you'll enjoy them. So um, once again, happy holidays, everybody. We'll see you again soon. And this has been your old pal Mage on the Square to Circle Music channel. I hope you come back and visit me again soon. Peace be with you.